Welcome to the OnTarget HTML5 website YouTube channel. The website is dedicated to teaching web development technologies in HTML5, HTML, CSS, CSS3, PHP, MySQL, Flash, and the XML scripting language. We'll soon be adding a section on JavaScript, so I hope you visit us at www.ontargethtml5.com.
Welcome back, and we're back in the HTML5 Essential Training Series. In this tutorial, we're going to talk about understanding the HTML5 tag structure, how the tags actually come together to form our documents. The code within an HTML5 file consists of text surrounded by tags. These tags indicate where the designated structure of the document should begin and end for that particular tag. Tags can include layout designations, style designations, although those types of tags are being replaced with CSS styling tags. But there are still some tags that are available in HTML5 for styling. They include where pictures should appear and etc. So let's look at a couple of examples of tag structures in HTML5. Alright, so let's go ahead and move into our exercise. I'm going to go ahead and close my presentation. Let's bring up, this is our desktop for our development. I've got my XAMPP web server running in the background with my, and in fact you can see that it's running. Got my server running with my MySQL and PHP running in the background. Let's go ahead and close that window. I'm going to go ahead and bring up my browser window. This is connected to my www directory of my web server. I'm going to go ahead and bring up my Sublime Text2 text editor, and inside my text editor I've got my HTML5 basic template loaded. If you've purchased the tutorial, have a copy of this basic template in your exercise files. If not, I'm going to go ahead, you can pause the video right here, give you a chance to copy down or type this into your text editor, and then I want you to go ahead and save it into that root directory of your web server so we can start doing some demonstrations of our tag structures. Alright, so the first thing I'd like you to notice that we have our side-by-side presentation. This is the way I like to do my videos online to instruct. I've got my text editor on the right-hand side. I've got my web browser connected to the web server on the left-hand side. This way, as we make changes in this browser window, you'll actually be able to see them appear. I actually have this basic HTML template already loaded. In fact, if I can see it right there, you'll see the HTML5 template is already loaded up in my browser window. Nothing is appearing other than my title, Understanding the HTML5 Tag Presentation, right up here at the tag. And the reason being is I've got nothing inside my body tags, because everything in the head section of your web document is there basically for the web server. It gives the web server and the search engines ideas on what the page contains, descriptions, keywords, etc. And you'll learn more about that as we move through these presentations. But right now let's focus on the body section of our text editor. You should have everything typed in. The first thing I want to demonstrate is let's demonstrate an H1 tag in HTML. I'm going to go ahead and, again, these are in your exercise file. If you don't have a copy of the exercise file, I will make certain that you have time to copy these or type these into your text editor. I'm going to go ahead and paste that H1 tag into my body tag. I want to go ahead and save this change, because unless you save the change, it's not going to be reflected inside your browser window. And then the next thing you need to do is you need to refresh your browser so it goes back and reloads this page. And you'll notice now we've got a heading tag with an H1 designator. We have an H1 opening tag and an H1 closing tag. It's imperative that you close the tags inside your HTML document. Some tags are self-closing, as you'll see, and we'll discuss those in a minute. There's a couple that actually close themselves, like the image tag. But most tags require an opening and a closing tag. The H1 tag is a heading tag, and that's the actual designation for that tag, H1. We have 6 heading tags inside HTML and HTML5. We have H1 through H6. Let me give you an idea of what the H3 tag looks like. Again, I've copied and pasted this from the exercise file. I'm going to go ahead and save my changes, refresh my page, and you'll see the H1 tag is much larger than the H3 tag. The H3 is another heading tag, and that's how they're set up inside your indexing of the file and the outline of the file. Those heading tags are important as they break into the sections of your document. You'll also see as we move further into the discussion on HTML5 that HTML5 now has a section tag. And that's one of the things that we're going to discuss. But right now we're looking at basic tag structure. So let's look at the H6 tag, which is the smallest heading tag that we have in HTML. Go ahead and save our document and refresh our browser page. And you'll see that we have a very large H1 tag, and we slowly move down to this H6 tag, which is very small. And you may be asking, well, where is the styling coming from? How does it know? How does the browser window know how big that H1 tag is, or the H3 tag, or the H6 tag, or whatever's in between? And that's based on the defaults of that particular browser. Every browser is a little bit different in what their defaults are for these settings, not only for the font type, but also for the size. You're going to see as we move through these demonstrations how, as a developer, you compensate for that. You actually take away those defaults and build the defaults into your programming of your web pages. So let's continue on with some additional tags. All right, so let's take it a step further. We've looked at heading tags in HTML. Let's look at paragraph tags. So I'm going to go ahead into my exercise files. I'm going to copy this paragraph, and right below my headings, I'm going to paste in this P tag, and this is a paragraph tag in HTML. And it's enclosed in a paragraph tag, which is an opening P tag right here, and then a closing P tag right there. If I go ahead and save this file and refresh my browser window, you'll see that's what a paragraph, that's the default formatting for a paragraph in my Firefox browser. And again, like I said in the previous section, every browser could treat these a little bit differently. We'll talk about how we compensate for that as we move along in the exercises. But heading tags and paragraph tags are considered block level elements. They actually take up this entire block. And as we move forward, I'm going to demonstrate what I mean by a block level element using some CSS, because it actually makes it a little bit easier for you to understand what the difference is between a block level and an inline element. So let's go ahead and look at another tag, and I want to look at the italics tag, and we're going to talk a little bit about this tag and the next tag. I'm going to bring an italics tag, and I want to bring a bold tag into our document. Okay, so I've got an italics tag. You'll notice my opening I and my closing I for italics, and my opening B and my closing B for bold. But let's talk a little bit about these. Let me go ahead and I'm just going to clean this up a little bit. By the way, white space is ignored in HTML, so it made no difference that I took that white space out, because it would have appeared the exact same way in my browser window. I'm just doing this so it's easier for you to see what we're doing, and I want you to be able to type this stuff in. And so as you're doing it, I want you to understand that white space in these particular tags means absolutely nothing. Let's go ahead and save this document. Let's go ahead and refresh my browser window. And now you'll see I've got this line that appears to be italic, and the line right below it appears to be bold. One thing I want you to notice, you'll notice that they're both on the same line, even though both these elements are separate lines inside my HTML document. Again, this goes back to them being inline level elements. They're not block level elements. If I would have enclosed these, let's go ahead and enclose these in a P tag, which is a block level element, save that change, and then refresh my browser window, you'll notice now that my bold text not only falls below the italics, but it also, there's a spacing. There's a gap between, even though they look very close together in my text editor, there's a gap between those two elements inside my browser window. And again, that gap, that margin and padding, is part of the browser itself. It's part of the default settings for that particular, for my Firefox browser. And again, we're going to get much more detail into these block level and inline level elements. I just wanted you to understand that because the italics tag is a, go ahead and save that change, because it's an inline level element, there is no return, or there's no carriage return, as we used to call it in typewriters or in word processing. There is no carriage return between these two elements because they're inline level elements. And to give you a better example of that, let's look at this next group of tags. So I'm going to go back to my exercise file. I'm going to copy this next line. I'm going to paste this into my text editor. And you'll notice I've got a paragraph tag, an opening and closing paragraph tag. And inside that tag, I've got italics and I've got some bold. Let me go ahead and extend this a little bit so you can see the bold tags. And I've got some bold tags right here. So I've got italics tags and bold tags, which are inline level elements inside my text editor. Now, if I go ahead and save these changes and refresh my browser window, inside my paragraph, I have italics and I have bold. All right, so now you can see that we have these inline italics and inline bold as part of that particular paragraph. One thing I want to point out is in the new HTML5 standards, and actually in the HTML standards for the last quite a few years, we've been using CSS for styling. And a lot of people come back and say, well, then if we're using CSS for styling, why do we have italics tags and bold tags inside of our HTML? Why aren't those tags deprecated? Why haven't they been removed from HTML? And the reason being is because of screen readers. We have screen readers for HTML because there's quite a few people out there that actually use the World Wide Web that may not have, or they may be visually impaired. So those italic tags and bold tags are used for emphasis in particular text inside of our screen readers. That's so the screen reader can understand, hey, look, there needs to be additional emphasis on this can be used, or there needs to be a strong emphasis on do not. And those tags are actually used for the screen readers. We still technically want to do our styling with CSS. We want to actually use the CSS formatting to do our styling. But there are some tags in HTML that appear to do styling with our text that really aren't styling tags. They're more for the screen readers or for the visually impaired that are using the web that allow them to have the same emphasis that we would see if we were viewing the text in the browser window. And I want to point that out because I've been asked that by quite a few people. So as we move forward with understanding the HTML5 tag structure, in the next tutorial, we're going to look at some additional tags that actually add graphics and links to our HTML5 documents. So I look forward to seeing you in that tutorial.
I hope you enjoyed the tutorial. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. And again, check out our website, www.ontargethtml5.com, for a complete listing of all the tutorials that are available in the development environment. I look forward to your feedback, and thank you for visiting.